The back of this truck is what American politics looks like today. It's garbage. It's absolute garbage.
Meow, 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 meow. Hello, America. I am Marti Gould Cummings, and this is Political Fish Live! We're swimming up the stream of democracy to bait and tackle the important issues, balance the scales of justice, and hopefully reel in a Democratic candidate. So, let's get to it. All right, one of the most important television events of the year happened recently, and no, I'm not talking about the finale of The Bachelorette season 15 because that is trash. I'm talking about the second Democratic primary debates, and judging from my last visit to the streets of New York City, there are absolutely not enough people watching or informed. So I'm going to break it down for you this time. Here we go. First up, Elizabeth Warren, yes! Elizabeth Warren versus John Delaney. This was the bitch slap heard around the goddamn world. She turned to that man, shook him to the core, said, I don't know why anyone goes to the trouble of running for president of the United States just to talk about what we can't do and shouldn't fight for. You know what? She has a plan for that. All right, up next, Tulsi Gabbard. Is she owned by the Russians? Probably. She is the official flower of Russia, or as I like to call her, the Jill Stein of 2020. I'm not a fan of that one. The next was Joe Biden, who should retire, saying, go easy on me, kid, to Kamala. Well, you were vice president and you're running for the highest office in the world, so we're not gonna go easy on you, we're gonna hold you accountable. Boom. I also love Cory Booker's clapback to Biden by saying, you're dipping in the Kool-Aid and you don't even know the flavor of it. The best part of this was Kool-Aid ever so gracefully had a tweet with the Kool-Aid man coming up on it. So I was like, Kool-Aid is getting in on the action, and the way our country's going, they'll probably run for president as well. I also really enjoyed our LGBTQ candidate Pete Buttigieg saying, it's time to, you can clap for that. Saying it's time to stop worrying what the Republicans will say. They're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists if we embrace a conservative agenda. You know what they're gonna do. They're gonna say we're a bunch of crazy socialists if we stand up for the right policy. So just go up there and defend it. And he's absolutely right. Who cares what the Republicans say? We have to save our country. And Bernie Sanders giving what I think should have been an Untucked of Drag Race, saying, I do know it, I wrote the damn bill. To me, that's the equivalent of pheromone being, you don't love me. And then Julian Castro to poor Joe Biden, he is getting like bitched around this entire debate. Good. So Julian Castro says to Biden, it looks like one of us has learned the lessons of the past and one of us hasn't. Boom, that is a burn, bitch. But I also think it's important, a lot of times people say, oh, you voted this way or you did this in your career. It's important to allow politicians to be humans and learn from their mistakes. So now it's time for all of these candidates who have done past legislation to grow from it and learn from it and know that we are gonna take our country back because, what is it? We are all immigrants and we're all welcome here. All right. So we're in New York City, it's summertime, and that means it is hotter than a grease trap at Long John Silver's outside. And everywhere you turn, there's a feral hog or a Democratic presidential candidate. But do you know what there aren't enough of? Drag queen politicians. So I went out there to find out if America is ready for a drag queen in elected office. Let's see how it went.
Would you ever vote for a drag queen?
Depends on what she stands for, of course.
A livable wage, healthcare for all, student debt relief, and getting rid of fucking racism.
Oh, I'll vote for Bernie Sanders.
Would you ever vote for a drag queen?
No.
Hypothetically, let's roll with me. If a drag queen was to run for office, would you be into that?
Yeah, of course.
You'd be into it? You
no
would
problem.
support
Definitely.
Depends on what their opinions are.
it? Would you ever vote for a drag queen?
Absolutely. I think we need more drag queens in office everywhere. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Definitely. That would be like the best fucking president we ever got. That's right.
Are you running?
Not for president, but stay tuned, America.
I will vote for Marty. Absolutely. Anytime.
Okay, so it looks like a lot of people in New York City are ready for a drag queen candidate. So I'm here to announce today, just kidding, you'll wait and see. Zoom in. We'll do that later. Okay, I am so incredibly excited for our guest today. On our first live political fish ever, our guest today is one of the most inspiring young LGBTQ leaders in New York City. He represents the Bronx in City Hall as a city council member. I don't know anything about Marvel Comics, but he sounds like a superhero to me. So, I really don't know anything. This is in the prompter, and I'm like, I don't know shit about superheroes. So, I watch Ninja Turtles. That's like my extent of superhero. And April O'Neil is a superhero to me, okay? So, check out this campaign video, and you will see what I mean.
It's often said that New York City is a tale of two cities. There's the gilded city, and then there's the other city. I grew up in public housing. I'm a son of the Bronx. I was raised by a single mother who had to raise 3 children on minimum wage. And I lived in conditions of mold and vermin, lead and leaks. And as I was living in these slum conditions, just across the street, the city was spending more than $100 million on a golf course for Donald Trump. And I remember asking myself, why would the city spend $100 million on a golf course rather than on the homes of struggling New Yorkers like my mother?
How are you, Ma?
Puppy.
Good to see you. How's everything?
And I knew at that moment that I had to fight for people like me.
Well, the building is okay because of the tenants. We all keep it okay. Why are they treating us like, you know, we don't matter?
And so when I ran for public office, I had no ties to the political establishment. What I had was a fighting spirit. I became the youngest elected official in the city of New York, the first openly LGBT elected official in the Bronx.
The power of believing something, and you are out to helping people, helping business people. You give yourself, and that's the best of you. I love you. That's the best.
I have conducted investigations into Kushner companies. I held the first ever city council hearing in a public housing development, which ultimately led to a $3 billion FEMA grant. The most important thing to know about the Bronx is that what most people want is not a handout.
Hey, Frank, how are you?
What most people want is a fighting chance at a decent life. I'm Ritchie Torres, born and bred in the Bronx, and I'm running for Congress because the Bronx needs a fighter in Washington, D.C.
It's the next congressman, you heard?
The primary presents a stark choice between a progressive new guard and a reactionary old guard, between an LGBT trailblazer and a vicious homophobe, between a new generation of leadership and more of the same. When we're setting priorities on healthcare and housing, education and employment, we need to know that there is a vocal and visible advocate for the Bronx today.
Because you already live there, you see
And
it.
most politicians have never even stepped foot in public
Exactly,
housing.
they don't even know.
Much less live there.
They don't know.
There's so many people who are burned by broken promises.
They have been. They have been. But I can guarantee they won't go through that with you.
I want my neighbors to say in the Bronx, there's no one who fights harder for us in Washington, D.C. I'm not a miracle worker, but I'm a fighter. And I'm gonna fight my heart out to ensure that the Bronx gets its fair share. And as the Bronx goes, so goes the country.
Please join me in welcoming New York City Council member and congressional candidate Ritchie Torres. Welcome. This is so exciting. Thanks for sitting down with me today.
It's exciting to be here.
It's okay. So before we get into like the meat and potatoes of your run, I want people to know you're like such a nice person. Every time I interact with you, you just like lead with just like joy and kindness.
Unless you're subpoenaed before my committee. Then...
Yeah, but the people you're subpoenaing, you know, aren't great. So they don't need to be nice. I want to talk. Okay, what is currently on your playlist? What are you listening to?
Oh God.
You were like, I'm going to talk about policy. No, I want to know, is it Beyonce or J-Lo? Who do we have on the playlist?
I don't. This is a question that's going to stump me.
Well, get ready. These are hard-hitting things here. This is journalism.
Can I think about that for a moment?
Think about it. Okay, what's your favorite place to grab a slice of pizza?
In the campaign video, I go to Pugsley's, which is right across the street from Fordham University in the Bronx. But I represent Arthur Abbey, Little Italy.
All right.
So it has some of the best Italian restaurants in the country. You have businesses that have been owned by the same family for more than 100 years. My favorite pizzeria there is Enzo's.
Enzo's. All right. Well, we'll have to take a trip out to the Bronx and have Enzo's together.
I'm not supposed to have favorites, but since we're...
Okay. Well, we'll go. I'll say it's my favorite, and we'll go. We'll go. I'm off on Tuesday, so we can have like a little, like, you know, gay politician date night. That'd be great. Okay. What is your favorite thing to binge on TV?
I love The Office.
The Office?
Yes, I love The Office.
The UK version or the Michael Scott version?
I've only seen the Michael Scott version.
All right, Dunder Mifflin, the house down
Dunder
boots.
Mifflin,
We
yes,
love.
yes.
Okay. I also I love Pam. I think Pam is like the nice. She's like the best. Okay. Yeah. Anyway.
And John is pretty hot. So.
He's so hot. My husband kind of looks like him. I think a little bit. John
Yeah.
Krasinski. He's like
Yeah, he's
so
pretty
like.
hot.
We don't need to like get like too into that, but he can get it. So speaking of getting it, you are going to get this congressional seat. I believe that.
I hope so.
I want to talk. Okay, so when you ran for office, you're currently in the city council,
I am.
which is amazing. And you were at 25 years old when you ran, you became the youngest elected official in New York City.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That is incredible. 25 years old. I don't want to tell you what I was doing when I was 25. It took me a couple years to figure it out. But how did it feel for you becoming the youngest elected official in the city?
It was a frightening experience. I had the Bronx is a powerful political machine.
Mm-hmm.
It has a long tradition of dynastic politics. You have the Riveras and the Diazes and the Serranos and the Arroyos. And when I first ran, I had no ties to the political machine. I had no ties to a political dynasty. And I was an openly LGBT candidate running in an environment with elected officials like Ruben Diaz Sr.
Who you're running against now?
I'm running
in
against
Congress.
him, and he has made a career out of stoking the fires of fear and hate and homophobia, and that's the environment in which I ran for public office. But I said to myself, there are 160,000 residents in a council district. Maybe 60,000 are registered Dems, but 6,000 actually vote. It has one of the lowest rates of voter participation, which is a problem. But I said to myself, I can knock on 6,000 doors.
Sure.
And so I knocked on 6,000 doors.
You go to Enzo's, get some food.
Actually, you'll lose more weight than you gain. But I went into people's homes. I shared my story, and I was able to win my campaign on the strength of door-to-door campaigning, face-to-face contact. And what I came to realize, my district is more conservative than Chelsea and the West Village. But what I came to realize is that people were drawn to my background as a tenant organizer.
Sure. At 25.
At 25.
It's amazing.
At 25.
So you're going up against somebody like Ruben.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Ruben Diaz Sr., he's in city council now, correct?
Yeah, he is.
He's currently in the council, and he's running for
He's
Congress.
the Donald Trump of the New York City Council, believe it or not.
But he says he's a Democrat, but his policies are far from it. Wasn't he the only, fact check me on this, was he the only one in Albany when he was elected in Albany that didn't vote for women's rights, like reproductive rights? Is that true? Am I making that up?
So he is the most anti-choice, anti-LGBT Democrat in New York State politics. He has compared abortion to the Holocaust.
Oh.
He voted against the latest city budget because it included funding for reproductive health care. In the 1990s, he said that the gay Olympics would lead to the spread of AIDS. In 2011, he was the only Democrat in the state Senate to vote against marriage equality.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yes.
That's what
And he has deep ties to the religious right. He's actually held rallies with Tony Perkins from the Family Research Council. He's campaigned with Ted Cruz in the South Bronx.
Ted Cruz is garbage.
Which is
okay?
awful.
Like,
Yeah.
he's garbage.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're
Yeah.
right. I don't know if you
Yeah.
can say
But-
things like that. I can. He's
Yeah.
fucking
No,
garbage.
he's garbage.
Awful.
And we called the sanitation department when he was brought to the South Bronx. But
Oh, we're clean him up. Get out of here. I feel bad. They need a raise if they have to haul his out.
But here's the concern: is that the South Bronx is the most Democratic district in America. 97% of the voters in the South
wow.
Bronx went for Barack Obama in 2012. So there's a real risk that the most Democratic district in America could be represented by a Trump Republican like Ruben Diaz Sr.
That's terrifying. And there's a couple other people I noticed who have started like announcing in this district as well. New York 15.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
You know, I focus on running a grassroots campaign, contacting the voters. You know, I feel good. You know,
Yeah.
I have the most money in the bank.
Yeah,
We have
you've
the sup-
raised, what is it? You've raised
Yeah.
$522,000? That is insane. That's amazing. That's amazing. And I want to talk about this because this is a huge deal.
There's a reason I no longer look 25. But.
Yeah, no, you look great. You look great. You're also, I think you're a year younger than me. And
Am
when
I?
I read that, I was like, oh, fuck my drag. So you've been endorsed by the Victory Fund.
Yes.
Which is incredible.
Yes.
The Equality PAC, Hotel Trade Council, and Laborers. So you're getting some pretty heavy endorsements right away,
Yes.
which is amazing. And $500,000 is no small thing. So, I mean, I think you got a good,
Having
shot.
said that, you know, Ruben Diaz Sr. has been entrenched in public office for about 3 decades, and he has the same name as his son. His son is pro-LGBT.
And he's running for
Right, and so I
mayor.
worry that there could be confusion of the two among the voters. So I'm going to have to raise somewhere between $1.5 and $2 million, run an aggressive grassroots campaign to overcome the power of his entrenched name recognition.
Well, we have a lot of people watching,
Yeah.
so go check out Ritchie. And are we allowed to say that? Like to donate? Yeah, why not? I don't care. It's my show. Go donate. Go donate because we cannot have a bigot in Congress. Like it's terrifying. It's terrifying. Okay, so this is a big deal right now. One of the priorities going into Congress when you're elected, Puerto Rico is going through a lot of changes at the moment. And they just had 3 governors in the span of like a week or something like that, you know? But it was very beautiful to see the people of Puerto Rico taking to the streets and demanding action. And I hope that that's something that we here in the continental U.S. kind of like take to and demand action and remove some folks from office. Primarily the orange one.
Do you have someone in mind? Or?
Yeah, I got a couple of them. There's one in Kentucky I really don't like. There's a couple. So the current issues, you know, we have here are Puerto Rico and the fight for public housing residents that are living in some pretty horrible conditions. And it says here that one of your biggest achievements in city council, we know that we've been reading about Jared Kushner's horrible housing units that he has in Baltimore and how he's just like a slumlord, basically, you know. So
I'm shocked.
Yeah, he's trash too. But you investigated Jared Kushner and Kushner companies for using construction as a weapon to harass tenants out of their rent-stabilized apartments. Can you chat about that a little bit?
So we found, in order to do construction in New York City, you need a building permit. And we found that Kushner companies had a pattern of falsifying building permits. Right? Their goal was to harass tenants out of their homes.
You mean somebody in Trump's family did something illegal?
Yes, something. Not only something illegal.
This is breaking news, America!
Yes. That the apple does not fall far from the tree.
Oh my gosh. Wait, didn't his dad go to jail for...
His dad did go to jail for tax fraud, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
Actually, I think it's Chris Christie put his dad in.
Oh.
When Chris Christie's putting you in jail, that says
That's
something.
pretty.
Yeah.
Okay, so for viewers who may, you know, I think a lot of times my experience in politics, you know, you kind of know my story a little bit getting into politics, and I try to engage young voters. I try to engage first-time voters or people who may be not super into the system because of what you're talking about, like these dynastic politics, you know. And what I loved about someone like AOC, she really went in and knocked on every single door.
That's right.
So I want young voters, and we saw it in the video, like the videos of me on the street. Like a lot of people just feel like, oh, I'm not into politics, or I don't know. But I think now is the time more than ever to be into politics, because I really believe our democracy is like teetering on the edge of brink. You know, it's scary. The planet is going haywire. It's. Do you watch the show Years and Years? Do you guys watch that? Do you watch the show Years and Years?
I don't know.
Oh, it's terrifying. But it's like, what will happen if we don't do anything? So, you're running for Congress.
Yeah.
And we've talked about all these things that some people may just not understand. So what is your sell to that first-time voter who has never voted in Congress before? What is your pitch to them?
Look, I know what it's like to be cynical about the political process. Right? I grew up in public housing that has been abandoned by the city, by the federal government. And I lived in a borough where you had corrupt elected officials, absentee elected officials, political dynasties, sex scandals. And one day I said to myself, rather than complain and stand by idly, why not become the change I wish to see? Why not represent the next generation of leadership in the borough that I call home? And Obama put it best, we are the change that we are waiting for. And so that's the message that I would send to millennials, is that rather than complain about the failures of the political establishment, let's take it over.
That's incredible. And that's so true. I think it's so true. I think it's very much about just taking action, even when it's scary. Politics, it can be scary, but it's you meet a lot of great people.
Yes.
And I don't know. I love whenever I go to I love protesting.
Yeah.
I love to protest. I think it's so fun because liberal protests are amazing because people are there with their babies and their drum circles. And I'm like, this is amazing. And then Republican ones are terrifying.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we call those Klan rallies, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. Speaking of yes. So I don't need that. We're good. So I was at a wedding in Massachusetts over the weekend. I was the flower girl. It was great. But we're in New York City, so we very rarely see a Trump supporter, right? Rarely. They're there, but we very rarely. So I was walking down the hallway of this hotel, and somebody had a Trump 2020 hat on, and I'm in full face, right? But it's that fear of I'm alone in this hallway with somebody who's wearing what I believe is the modern day hood. And that's that to me is scary that we've gotten to a place in our country that a baseball cap symbolizes such hate, So I want to ask, because as an LGBTQ person, you're running as you're running as a progressive candidate who happens to be gay, right? So what has that experience been like for you in your political career overall?
I think we're a product of our lived experiences and our identities, right? I take pride in being openly LGBT, and the value of being gay is that it teaches you to be radically authentic and transparent. Mm-hmm. It teaches you to be out, not only about your sexuality, but about every aspect of your life. I am open about my struggles with depression. In 2007, I had dropped out of college. I thought of taking my own life. I was on the verge of suicide. And then in 6 short years, I became the youngest elected official in the city of New York. And so the lesson learned from my life is even in your darkest moment, never lose hope.
Yeah. So
what my identity as a gay man has taught me is radical transparency, radical authenticity about who I am.
Yeah, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Thanks for sharing that.
And one day I can be a drag queen.
So one day.
But I have to get a playlist first.
Wait, have you thought of your
no,
playlist
I have not.
yet?
I don't.
Ritchie, oh my God, I want to.
I love Adele. Okay.
Adele. Word. Okay. Now Adele, this is politically incorrect, but I love that she's had this beautiful life, but now that she's filed for divorce, I'm like, whoa, we get an album. Okay, I'm so excited. But I'm sad for her. Okay, we're gonna play a little game where we're gonna do word association. So we're gonna put some people on the screen. They're gonna be a variety of political figures and hometown heroes from the Bronx. So I want you to say the first thing that comes to your mind when you see these images. So, I need the card for this.
Yeah, this is gonna be.
Sorry. I'm not Oprah yet. Hold on. All right. Picture number 1. Are we ready? Mitch McConnell.
Repulsive.
Yeah.
Complicit in the most corrupt administration in America. Is that,
Yeah. He.
Conniving. So.
Yeah. It's crazy. Before we move on in the game, I want.
And I think did he break his shoulder?
He broke his shoulder,
that's
and I don't
divine
give a
intervention.
shit about it.
Yeah.
I think Mitch McConnell. Okay. Never mind. I can't even get into it. Evil. I think he's evil.
Yeah, he's like genuine, no core. Like the most Machiavellian, malevolent person in politics.
It's It's
behind Donald Trump is Mitch McConnell.
It's
It's
scary.
people like Mitch McConnell who enable.
Well, he's
Donald
like the
Trump.
puppeteer,
He
you
is.
know. It's terrifying.
And he was the driving force behind the Kavanaugh nomination, behind the Gorsuch nomination, and there is no greater threat to LGBT equality than a right-wing Supreme Court.
That's right.
Because even if we pass, one concern I have is what I call the weaponization of religious liberty, using religious liberty as a weapon for discriminating against members of the LGBTQ community. And if you have a right-wing Supreme Court that reinterprets the First Amendment as a license to discriminate against the LGBTQ community, right, that to me is a nightmare for our community.
Yeah, well, it starts with...
and that's enabled by Mitch McConnell.
It's enabled by Mitch McConnell, and it starts with denying somebody cake at their wedding, and now we have the 14th trans woman of color who's been murdered, and people it largely goes unnoticed. And what will happen if the Supreme Court brings that up? They'll say, oh, well,
Look, the reality, we live in a bubble in New York City, right? We have the strongest human rights law in the country, but in most states, it's legal to deny someone health care.
Was it like 28 states or something like that, I think?
To deny someone health care because of one's sexuality, to fire someone, to evict someone. You can do it legally in most states based on sexual orientation or gender identity.
Makes me want to go to a protest. All right, next.
Or run for public office.
We're not saying anything today. That's next week. All right, who is next on the screen? J-Lo! Oh, she's beautiful.
She's beautiful.
Have you ever met her?
And she's beautiful because she's from the Bronx.
Yeah, that's right. She's beautiful. Didn't she just turned 50? Oh, she's not there. She just turned 50 years old.
It's amazing.
Have you met her before?
I've never met her.
Oh, you gotta meet her. You gotta meet her. I have a friend who does her social media.
Do you know her?
Oh, well, do you want to hear how D-list I am? Okay.
Yeah.
So I get invited to a lot of red carpet shit because they're like, oh, we need a drag queen and nobody from Drag Race is available. Get that all funny. So I'll go. And I went, there was the premiere of her new movie that came out. What was the movie where she worked in a grocery store and then do you know? Second Chance, yeah. It was a cute film. But I went to the red carpet and I'm like posed. I'm like, ooh, yes, take my picture. Ooh, yes, get an image. Woo, like living my best life. And then these securities are like, get out of the way, and like push me aside. And then this like loofah came walking down the red carpet, and it was J-Lo looking beautiful,
She's
glowing.
gorgeous, yeah.
It was like the Virgin Mary had appeared. Yeah. She had this beautiful pink loofah, and who is she married to or getting? What is his name?
A-Rod.
A-Rod.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Man, that is nice to look at.
Yeah.
He was beautiful.
Yep.
So J-Lo, put her on your playlist. Maybe she could collaborate
Absolutely,
with
absolutely.
All right, who is next? AOC.
AOC, a fighter.
A fighter.
Young, dynamic, represents the future of our party.
Have you met her?
I have.
Yeah, she's great.
Yes, I've met her in person.
We DM.
Yeah, she's smart.
Hey girl, she is lovely.
And she's like the most effective questioner in Congress.
Oh,
like a prosecutor, prepared.
Yes.
She is far smarter than her critics realize.
But that's why the critics come for her, because they're scared of her, because they know how good she is. Yeah. You know, if she wasn't effective at her job, they would just write her off. But they know that she's like going in and she's not going to let up. I love the whole squad. I think they're incredible. I think Women in Power is incredible. I think Women of Color in Power is incredible. And she's like leading the charge. I love her. And not just because we DM.
And again, like J-Lo, she's from the Bronx.
She's from the Bronx. Do you know she did this? So I had this like.
You see, there's a theme here.
There's
right?
a theme here.
Yeah.
I don't. It's crazy how. I did this baby shark thing that happened, like this viral moment, and I got like a taste of how much people dislike her, which was so scary because I did this baby shark moment like with the toddler, and then we made a music video, and she shared the music video, and she's like, "This is so sweet, like drag, like for kids, it's amazing, blah blah." And the hate messages that were like geared towards her and me, like that, like the violent hate messages, it's it's trickled down from the Mitch McConnells who are allowing that behavior, which is
Although
crazy.
when you are a change agent who's taking on controversy, what might be controversial now could become accepted several decades from now. You know, Martin Luther King's approval ratings in the 1960s was in the 30s. And now he's almost a universally revered icon. So I think history will judge AOC kindly.
Yeah, they'll judge her kindly, and Mitch McConnell, we hopefully never talk about again. All right, who is next? Cardi B.
Cardi B. I went to the same high school as Cardi B.
Really?
Yeah, we both went to the Lehman High School campus. Yeah.
Oh, work.
Yeah.
I love her.
And that's the extent of our commonality, but she's much cooler. So.
I like that she's getting political now.
Yeah.
Too.
She's like all in for Bernie.
She loves Bernie. She loves Bernie. I'm obsessed with her. I have a drag mix that's like her talking about like Trump like ordering ordering federal government workers not to go back to work without getting paid. It's so good. I'm obsessed with her. All right, next one. Ew. Yeah.
You know, I would call him the devil.
I don't even want him on the screen. Can we
So
just I don't even want that. I don't even want to look at that.
Sonia Sotomayor.
Yeah, we can just skip Trump. He's not worth our time. Sonia Sotomayor, she's incredible.
She's amazing. She is the progressive conscience of the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Right, and she is living proof that you can rise to the highest levels of power in the United States and remain true to who you are.
I think I love that you said that. Remain true to. I interact with a lot of politicians, and what I like about you, like when they ask like who do I want to be the guest on this first time we're doing this, I was like I want Ritchie because you're an authentic, kind person who I think you're your authentic self, and I think a lot of times in politics people they might like lose that, and I so respect that about you, that you have held on to who you
I appreciate
are.
Is that an endorsement? Or?
Well, I do endorse you. Yes. I'll tweet later today.
Are you going to break the news to Reverend Diaz? Or?
I don't think he'd want a call from me. Speaking of Ruben Diaz Sr., let's pull him up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's from like 20 years ago.
Yeah. And that's all we need to know about that. Okay, and the next one is this brand new up-and-coming drag queen, Marti Gould Cummings.
Oh.
Look at that. Oh, I'm wearing the same earrings.
I see a future elected official in the making there, but that's me.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So I want to go to the audience. We have a couple questions from audience members, if you don't mind answering
Sure,
them.
absolutely.
Cool. Question number one is right here. Hi, how are you?
Hi. My question is, I'm someone who is also pretty politically active and always making sure I'm checking on the news. But with all the protests that are going on and the work that people are doing, and sometimes it feels like not only are things not getting done, but it feels like we're taking steps rapidly back. So my question is, with all the chaos that's going on and all the awful things that you're constantly hearing in the news, as a political advocate, how do you stay strong and continue to move forward, even though you hear all this bad news all the time?
It's a great question. You have to recognize that change is a long game. And progress, by its very nature, is 3 steps forward, 2 steps backwards. You know, as nightmarish as Donald Trump's presidency is, he is a lagging indicator of a country that no longer exists. Right? His presidency is a reaction against progress. It's a reaction against the changing complexion of our country, a new generation of leadership. The future of America is not with Donald Trump; it's with us.
Thank you. And we'll do one more question right there. Hi, how are you?
Hello, how are you? So I know that you are the chair of the Committee of Oversight and Investigation.
Yes.
And I was wondering, what investigation do you think has had the biggest impact on New York City residents?
So I grew up in public housing, and when I ran for public office, when I entered the city council, I was on a mission to tell the story of residents in public housing. Just to give you a little context, public housing in New York City has been so starved of funding that it has $32 billion worth of capital needs. Right? In order to repair every boiler and every brick and every roof, you would have to invest $32 billion. So you have disabled residents in top floor apartments who are stranded in their apartments because of broken elevators. You have had children who have been poisoned by lead paint. You've had senior citizens who have been freezing in the heart of winter because of broken boilers. You've had asthmatics who are struggling to breathe in their own apartment because of molded and leaking conditions. And I felt it was my job to shine a spotlight on the humanitarian crisis in public housing. So when I became the investigations chair, we conducted the first ever investigation into the New York City Housing Authority, and we uncovered that in the winter of 2017-2018, there were 323,000 New Yorkers who at various points in the heating season had no heat and hot water. Right? 323,000 people is a population larger than most cities in the country. It's triple the population of South Bend, Indiana. And so I saw it as my role to tell the story of poor people in public housing. So that's the investigation that I would look to as one of my most powerful legacies.
Thank you, Ritchie. Now, if you're tired of me talking, buckle up, because I have something that I need to get off my chest. And I don't mean these silicone tits. Now, sit down and listen, because this is Marti's soapbox. All right. America is facing an epidemic of white nationalist domestic terrorism. There have been more mass shootings in the United States this past month than we have Democratic candidates running for office. We need gun reform like Trump needs a Twitter character limit. Some of the candidates have been speaking out about this. Marianne Williamson has released an outline for how she'll combat the issue. Kamala has promised to act with the executive order if elected. And Pete Buttigieg, hey Chasten, we also DM. Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete, has set up a hotline where you can call and it will connect you directly to your senator's office to let them know that you're a constituent and that you demand gun control now. It takes less than 3 minutes and makes all the difference. Our lives depend on it. I'll go off prompter for 1 second. I think our country is in crisis. There is no country in the world that is a developed nation that has to deal with this issue. And people are saying it's a public mental health issue, which yes, but it's also an issue of racism and bigotry that needs to be addressed. The biggest threat to our country is white men who are misogynistic with toxic masculinity, and we have to take a stand against this. We should be able to go to school, to church, to the theater. Even in this room today is not safe by America's standards. We have to do something. And recently, an Ohio representative named Candace Keller, I'm done my rant, we can scroll. And recently, an Ohio representative named Candace Keller came up with a whole bunch of reasons of why there are mass shootings and why the mass shooting in Dayton, Ohio happened. And one of her reasons was drag queen advocates are the reason these events of violence are happening. Well, as a drag queen advocate, I can assure you that my work is to prevent these happenings, not for them. So I'm gonna call Candace right now so you can see how easy it is. All right. Little Candace thinks she's so tough.
Yeah, although it is 6 o'clock.
Well, we'll leave a strongly worded message. It's 5 rings. We tried it before. They don't answer. Stop texting me. Stop texting me. How many was that? One more.
You've reached the office of State Representative Candace Keller of the 53rd House District, representing Butler County. Your call is very important to me. Please leave your name, address, phone number, and a brief message, and I will return your call as soon as possible. Thank you.
Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
Hi, Representative Keller. How are you? My name is Marti Gould Cummings, and I am a political activist and advisor on the Mayor's Nightlife Council, a member of Community Board 9 in New York City, and I'm on the board of directors for the Ali Fournier Center for Homeless LGBTQ Youth. And I'm also a drag queen. And I would like to let you know that your words are not only unfounded, but they're dangerous. It's rhetoric that is going to get more people hurt. Your words in themselves are inciting violence. By saying that groups of people like drag queen advocates are to blame for mass murders is putting other people's lives in danger. What's to blame for mass murders is a Second Amendment law that was written 200 years ago when it took 1 to 2 minutes to reload a gun, when today we have guns that can fire off hundreds of rounds within 30 seconds. It is your duty to now resign from office because you are not fit to hold it. Thank you. It's super easy and it's super quick to call, and we shouldn't just be calling people like Candace, but we have to call Mitch McConnell and all the senators on the local and federal level. So to make it easy for you, we are going to have, I skipped. We're going to be having a script for you attached to this video on this episode, so you viewers at home can follow that script, pick up the phone, and dial to make sure that we are making America safe again. This was our show. Thank you so much, Monet Exchange, for letting me borrow your stage and for letting me fumble over reading a teleprompter for the first time. I will be back, so stay tuned, and you better keep up with episodes of The Exchange Rate. Thank you to Ritchie Torres for being here. Find out how you can become a volunteer, donate, or get involved with his campaign for Congress in New York's 15th District, and I will be part of an event for him coming up at the end of the month, so I will post that on my social media as well. And until next time, I'm Marti Gould Cummings, and this is Political Fish. Bye.
Thank you.